Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Edmonton Oilers Throwback 2010 franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, we had free agency and started up the season simulation. Now, we made a pretty substantial trade. We traded away 3 defensemen, those being Jurdev, Tremblay, and then the other one, I'm trying to remember, who was the other one? There was another player anyways. I think it was another dress defenseman. Let me go actually to the New York Islanders. We anyways traded them to New York Islanders. Can't remember which defenseman because we've had so many defensemen in the series. But we traded, Jurdev, and we also traded, it was Parayko. Parayko is currently sent back to the AHL. I did take a look after last episode. For some reason, they sent Parayko and Tremblay back down. But you can see they have a very deep defensive core, but Jurdev is technically tied for their best defenseman on the team. So I think it was a pretty substantial trade for both teams. They get in 3 decent defensemen, and we got back a first-round pick, which is pretty nice. Now, the New York Islanders are actually doing pretty good this season, so that pick might end up being a late pick. But hopefully, if we do get to the draft with those first-rounders still intact, we could easily trade them to move up in the draft to grab ourselves an elite defenseman, or maybe those picks will come into play potentially at the trade deadline this year. So very excited to see what this team's able to do the rest of the way. We are currently 15-7-3, and I have been pretty impressed, I would say, for the most part with this team. As you can see, our offense of game is still not necessarily the craziest, but it's not terrible. We're 11th in goals for, and we're 10th on the power play. Meanwhile, defensively, we're still very good, 2nd in goals against and 8th on the penalty kills. So a lot of decent stats. Also, the young goaltender, Ricardo McClement, as you can see on the bottom, has been really good so far. He doesn't have a great record, but he's got a .942 save percentage through 6 games again, so he's doing just as good as he was last year, if not even better. So very excited just to see what this team's able to do leading up to the trade deadline, because likely in this episode we will simulate to a day before the deadline. Hopefully this team's still playing pretty good at that point, so that way we might not need to make any adjustments at the trade deadline. But obviously if there is adjustments to be made, we will make those in the next episode. So with that said, let's get in your guys' comments. You guys have to say about last episode, and we will continue simulating and seeing if this team is actually for real or not. So the first and only comment is from Samurai Taku, who says, like to trade from the start of the episode. Jenner is listed as a third-line forward, so you might want to give him some penalty kill time. Also, having Fada on the power play ruined the chemistry of that unit. Alto should not be wearing number 1. Give him something where X minus Y equals 1, 2, 21, 32, 43, etc. I would have said 11, but obviously that is retired. So he doesn't obviously like the idea of Alto wearing number 1, because it was kind of weird when we were looking at our lineup. We did realize that one of the young prospects that has elite potential in Alto, for some reason, wants to wear number 1 as a forward, which honestly is the weirdest thing ever. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and change his jersey number to either 21, 32, or 43. If all those are taken, then we'll have to do another one. But yeah, definitely going to change his number, because there's no reason why a forward would wear number 1. I don't even know if any forward's ever worn a number 1 in the NHL. Probably not, because I feel like it's always been a goalie number, but there's probably some random person from back in the day that has worn number 1 as a forward. Just have a hunch on that, because I know, I think there's a guy named Kurt Bennett that used to play for, like, the Atlanta Flames. I'm pretty sure he wore, like, number 2, kind of like Will Smith does and stuff like that. So there is some really weird players that have worn, like, single-digit numbers as forwards. But let's see what number we have to change Alto to. So 21 is actually available, so I guess we'll probably go with that. I feel like 21's not a bad option. There's 32 and 43. Also, I kind of like 21 for him just because it actually still has the number 1 in it. I mean, while the other ones, you'd obviously have to do the minuses and stuff like that. So, yeah, let's go with number 21 for Alto. And that will be his new jersey number for the rest of the season. But OGs of the series will remember that he wore number 1 at the beginning of his career. So there's a little subtle adjustment made with the jersey numbers. We also do need to go back to edit lines, though, because he was saying that Boone Jenner should get some penalty kill time, because he's listed as a third liner. If we take a look at Boone's, he's listed as a checking forward, so he might be actually okay with ice time. I can't tell now, because for some reason, after you load out a franchise and load it back up again, this log always seems to erase itself. I don't know if that's a bug or not, but it's kind of annoying. So I don't know if he was complaining about ice time, but we could go to a penalty kill and see if there's a way to get him in. Our penalty kill has been decent enough this season already. But who would I take off the penalty kill? I mean, Lowry's not getting power play time, correct? Or is he getting power play time? No, he's not getting any power play time, so probably good to keep him on. Brock Nelson's getting power play time, so it's fine probably to take him off. We could take off Nathan McKinnon, but I do like having McKinnon there as an option just to score goals and stuff. But he has no shorthanded points so far, so I guess we'll take Nate Dogg off the penalty kill, and if he complains, obviously, we can put him back on. Let's get Boone Jenner in the spot just because Jenner's got great faceoffs, and we'll see if that helps improve our penalty kill even more so. And I think the rest of that should be fine and ready to go. We don't really need to make a lot of adjustments because this team is so good. We do actually have an injury at the moment, which I forgot about in Hlinka. He's still out for, I think, a couple weeks or maybe only a week. So we do have a little bit of a weaker defensive core, but obviously once he returns, it should be fine. So I think that's good. He was also mentioning about Fada making his power play a minus, I think he said. Which honestly, yeah, he's not necessarily a great fit for the power play. Hasn't been having as good of a season goal scoring wise this year, but I still would prefer to have him on a power play probably than not. So let's just keep him in that spot for the time being. And let's hope that maybe he get his offense going a bit more this season, just because last year was really good. This year we gave him a contract extension before the season started. He's only on for those 5 goals, but 15 points is solid. So he is at least picking up some points while he has the chance to. So with that said, I think we're ready to continue simulating. I don't think there's anything else we really need to do for the time being. Hopefully this team continues to win games, like I said, and hopefully we could get to the trade deadline, or to the day before the trade deadline with a very nice record, and then maybe we won't have to make much adjustments unless we want to trade away multiple first-round picks or something for a crazy good player. But I don't know if we're necessarily fully in a rush to win a Stanley Cup, because the series is definitely very close to ending, because as of this recording, it is currently the 12th. This episode would be going up on the 13th. I'm trying to figure out when we'd have, when the series could potentially end. So the 13th, the 15th, there would be another episode. Then there would be the 18th, the 20th, the 22nd, 25th, 27th, 29th. And then we're literally already at the 1st of September, which is insane. The 3rd of September as well. I don't know when I'm getting NHL, so I don't know if I'll be able to upload before the normal date that the game's at or what. But there's a good chance that we only have maybe another 3 weeks left of the series, which is pretty insane. So we kind of might be in a bit of a rush to win a Stanley Cup, especially if our team goes on a deep run again. That might take up a couple of weeks of simulation. So anyways, let's see what this team's able to do. We have a lot of games against Minnesota this month, 3 of them to be exact, and then 2 against Boston, 2 against Chicago, so a lot of repeat teams. Let's go right till January the 1st and see what we're like in this month of December and see if our team continues to win games. We do beat Minnesota there in a shootout, as our depth defenseman has gotten injured, but Hlinka should be back soon, so I don't really care too much if it forwards in that spot for like a game or 2. We do beat Florida. Do we beat Boston? Yes, we do. So we're still beating teams even without all of our defensemen on it, which is good. But we did just lose a game instead too, but that's okay. It's good to see our team doing relatively good. Obergauer's actually not a bad player to play as a defenseman. He's a forward that's a two-way, got good defensive awareness, so I'm okay with playing him as a defenseman. But obviously it's not going to fit the defensive core that well. So we'll get Hlinka back in here, and our defensive core is back to full health, which means our full team is ready to go for more simulation. All right. So we just lost to Boston. We lose to Chicago 5-2. Now we're on a 3-game losing streak, which is not ideal. But we do beat Minnesota 6-2 and Chicago 5-4. So a little bit of inconsistencies in this month, but obviously we've been pretty good for the most part. There is a depth defenseman on waivers, which is not bad. He's only 24 years old. He does have medium top 4 potential, but he's already 78 only. He's not bad. I could claim him as a depth defenseman, but I don't think I'm going to, just because I'm not a cheap ass and claiming people on waivers. We do lose to the Habs 4-1, as Cameron has herniated his disc. Okay, well, that's a very, very big injury to one of our best players, and that might change the complexion of the season. Like, I do think we're going to be a playoff team regardless based on this start, but that is a substantial injury. And that's why you don't trade away as much depth as possible, just because, holy shit, man. A herniated disc for Cameron. That's a really big injury. We're going to go to edit lines here and reconfigure things, because we will not have Cameron back until like a week before the playoffs. So he will be back for the playoffs, which is good, but that's a really big blow. I think the play here is to go... We could actually put Nelson top line maybe instead. That's not a bad option too. Because Brock Nelson's a really good player. Put him next to there. Actually, would Marcoux work there better? No, it doesn't seem like it. We'll move Lati up, and then we will probably... Lowry's not a great face-off, man. Is he? No, he's 76. That's not terrible. Let's get Holden onto that third line, and then we'll put on this fourth line. We will put in Obergauer probably just for the defensive rating. Goalie was good at face-offs, correct? Yeah, goalie's good at face-offs, so I prefer to use him as a depth forward. Let's go with Obergauer in that fourth line spot. And then we'll go to the power play here. Obviously, readjust this. I don't want Obergauer really on the power play, so I'm going to move Fada up to that spot. I'm going to take Obergauer off this one and move Falk to the first unit, I think. Trying to reconfigure this. Because it's going to be a while before we see Cameron again. And he's been playing really good too. So that's one of the worst injuries we've had probably in this entire series at this point in time. We'll go to our second unit here. Take Falk off this unit here. Who do I want to put on this unit? We already have Mackey, Holden, Toffoli, and Lati. I guess we could put the youngster and Alto on this power play. That's not a bad idea, just to get him some power play time. We'd have to move him up in the lineup over there, and then Holden could go on the point instead. It is a -1, so it's not necessarily ideal, but I think it is doable. So we'll go with something like this as our second power play. First power play, obviously, we need to reconfigure this as well. So we'll move Toffoli up to the wing, and we will once again put Mr. Falk on the first unit. And we'll go to the second unit here, and we will take Falk off this unit and give Mackey some 4-on-4 time. And that should be fine. It does make it a -3, but I don't really care too much if it says -3. Penalty kill obviously will stay probably the same. I don't know if Obergauer gets penalty kill time. No, it doesn't look like it. Okay, I think the rest of that's good. So Obergauer into the lineup just to help out with the defensive play in that fourth line. I think that should be a fine little addition. Holden will get some more ice time playing next to Lowry and Alto. I think that's fine. Obviously, the top line doesn't have as good of chemistry with Nelson on it, though. Marcoux doesn't make it better either, so we could always try, like, McKinnon down the middle and do this instead. Yeah, we could always try that, but I think for the time being, I'm going to have Brock down the middle, and if that doesn't work out well, we could always reconfigure that top six again, but that's a pretty big loss for Cameron being out till April 1st. We could call up a depth forward, I guess. Who doesn't go through... Actually, who do I not want scratched? I don't really want Bemstrom scratched. Is there anybody I'm okay with scratching here? Brock McGinn would be listed as a fourth liner, so probably not a good idea to have him scratched. Anybody scratched down there? No. We probably have to sign ourselves a depth forward or something like that. So let's stop the sim here because Cameron's injury is pretty bad. We did just beat Minnesota, as I mentioned, 6-5. Nice. Let's go back here for a second here and see what we could do here. So, trying to think of if we need to sign ourselves a depth forward. I guess we could just sign ourselves a depth forward or trade for one, but we could easily sign one for cheap. Preferably somebody that's, I guess, a centerman. Actually, no, we do already have a centerman technically as a depth option. Who do I want to bring in? Brett Connolly? He's only 26 years old. He is a sniper, but he's not great defensively. Does anybody have good defensive stats out of these dudes? Just out of curiosity, in case we get into injury trouble. Jujar Kyra has really good defense, but he is only a 75, but that's not bad. You know what? Let's bring Jujar Kyra into the Edmonton Oilers a little bit later than he actually was, I think. Or maybe it's early. I don't even know. But we'll sign him up. And he will be our other depth option here in the NHL. Let's just make sure he's already in the NHL. I think he already is. And that will just give us an option now because of that injury. We can easily throw him down on waivers once Cameron returns. There you go. Just to give us a little bit of depth just in case. Because if we lose another player, obviously I don't want to be playing like all of our depth forwards, so to speak. So let's continue simulating. But Cameron's season is pretty much over, which is not great. Let's actually take a look at how good he was doing beforehand. He will be back, like I said, April 1st. But that's quite a ways away at this point in time. So yeah, losing Cameron, pretty substantial. He wasn't doing actually maybe as good this season as guys like Marcoux and all that, but 23 points in 35 games was -5. But you can see power play points, shorthanded points, And he was winning a lot of face-offs this year, so pretty big blow, but it is what it is. So Cameron, best of luck in your recovery, and hopefully we could see you in April come playoff time, and hopefully because you're returning into our lineup then, hopefully we could go on a bit of a run if we do make the playoffs this year. So let's get these last 3 games done in December, and then we will see the updated standings a bit. Colorado is a 3-0 loss. Rangers is a 4-3 loss. And the Sharks is an overtime loss. So a little bit of a rough start to the non-Cameron era for at least a couple months. But we are still 21-13-4, which does have us as second place in the Northwest Division. Tied basically, actually 1 point back of the Flames, same amount of games played. So we're in a pretty solid spot right now. But we just got to be careful, obviously, not to fall apart too much without Cameron. So let's go through a couple weeks at a time now, just because if we lose a bunch of games here as well, after that 3-game losing streak, maybe we need to make more adjustments to the lineup a bit. So let's go to the 14th and see if we could find ways to win games without Cameron in the lineup. We should be able to still, as we beat the Kings 5-3. Nice. Tampa is a 3-2 loss. That's kind of bad. 2-1 loss to Anaheim. Columbus is a 3-2 loss, and Colorado's a 4-1 win. So we definitely are sliding a bit. We are still second place in our division, but technically, if you look back at our last 8 games, we've lost 6 of them. We do not have a good record over the last little bit, so we could make some adjustments here. We are 3-6-1 in our last 10 games, and it's been always since that Cameron injury. So let's try McKinnon down the middle instead, and we will move to Foley up to that top line. We'll have Nelson playing. I mean, he technically in real life could play center, left wing, and right wing, I think. So we'll play him probably on the right side this time, I guess. And then he'll play with Latti and Marcoux. It'll be Holden, Lowry, Alto still, and Shaw, Obergauer, and Jenner. Yeah, I think this is fine for the most part. I'm just obviously a little bit concerned about not having Cameron in the lineup, but I think Toffoli should do really well up there. He did really get up there a few years ago, so I'd expect him to score some goals on that top line. Alright, so with that said, let's continue to simulate and see if our team can get off the little bit of a schneid that we're on, and hopefully we don't just flounder because Cameron's not on this team anymore. Like, is he the glue that holds this team together? Hard to say, but let's go through another week. 3 games, Islanders, Stars, and Ducks. Islanders have been a good team so far, but we beat them 2-1. Dallas, we win 5-2, and Anaheim, we lose 5-4, but that's still a little bit of a better stretch for this team. 2 of 3, I will take it, but obviously still kind of not doing as well as of lately, but the Avalanche are actually kind of falling off a little bit, so we do have a 6-point lead on them for second place in this Northwest Division right now, which is nice. We do have a lot of games coming up against them, it looks like, though. Let's go to the end of January and see how we do in this month. This last 4 games. We have Islanders again, and we lose to them 1-0. Anaheim, we win 3-2 in a shootout. Phoenix, we lose 5-2. And in Ottawa, who just fired their head coach, is a 3-2 OG win. All right, starting to kind of figure out our game a little bit more, but obviously not doing as good as we were earlier in the season. But like I said, it could be just because of Cameron's injury that our team has fallen off a little bit, but still second place in the division, up 5 points up on the Avalanche. But we do have 3 games against them this month, so they could easily leapfrog us because of those. We're also 8 points up on the Canucks. We do not have any more games, I don't think, against them this season because we had so much against them earlier on this year. And in the Wild are by far in dead last, and we've beaten them already multiple times as well. Let's continue to simulate and see how we're doing. The trade deadline is approaching us. Obviously, we'll take a look at some stats and see if there's anything wrong with our team that we might need to address going forward once we get to that point. Colorado, we win 3-2. Colorado, again, we win 4-3 in overtime, so those are 2 big victories for the Stanings. We do lose in a shootout to Detroit, though, as some guy named Backlund, it's not Mikhail Backlund, some generated guy named Torsten Backlund is on waivers, 77, medium 7th. Not a bad depth defenseman, especially offensively. Like, he's got good passing and awareness. But I don't think I could utilize him, to be honest. He probably would be a good NHL player based on his attributes, but it's really tough to say. Doesn't have good shooting, but good passing. I think he could produce, but I'm not going to claim him. Game against Nashville is a 5-3 victory. So we're 30-19-5 with a couple weeks up to the deadline. Looking pretty good. We're 4 points back of the Flames with 2 games in hand as well. which I like. We're almost 10 points up on the Avs with less games played, so we're in a very good spot right now if we keep on winning games. So let's keep it going. Let's go through another week. Phoenix, Dallas, Philadelphia, and Colorado. As we're getting offered a trade, and it's funny because it's literally the defenseman I traded to the Islanders earlier in the season, Zherdev and Eric Shelina, for a second and a third. Sorry, New York, not doing it. I'm surprised the Islanders are trying to move out from Zherdev because the Islanders have been good this season, so I don't really know why they'd want to offload one of their best defensemen, as we just lost 3 of our last 4, so that's a pretty bad little slide there, as the Avs are now 5 points back of us with 1 more game played, so they're starting to catch us up again in the standings, which is not ideal. So a little bit of an inconsistent episode for our team, but I do expect it still with how young we actually are. So let's go through another week. We got 2 games against the Blackhawks and 1 against the Coyotes. Chicago game 1 is a 2-1 loss, not good. Phoenix is a 3-2 win, and Chicago for the second time this week, 3-2 shootout wins. So not the best start to the week, but we do end off with 2 wins, which is good. All right, 2 more games to go, and then we'll be a day before the deadline. So St. Louis and Nashville. Let's see how we do against them. St. Louis is a 4-3 loss. Nashville's a 4-2 win. So we kind of lagged our way to this trade deadline, but we are still second place in the division, only by 4 points. We are off of the lead, so we could still win the division, but we're only 3 points up on the Avs. Everybody else we don't really need to worry about too much, but yeah, we're in a pretty solid spot, I think. We obviously have to look at points percentage and all that, but I think we're in a good spot right now. It's just all about individual team stats now that I'm wondering about, like how good we are in goals for and all that. So in terms of that, we have fallen off offensively a little bit. We are 15th in goals for, but we are still 5th in goals against, so defense has still been great. Power play percentage is 15th now, and penalty kills 10th. So special teams have dropped off a bit, and our offense has dropped off, but I kind of expect that with Cameron's injuries. So I'm not going to say that's a horrible thing, but obviously there's some things that could get addressed if we really want to. All right, let's take a look at the standings update here briefly, just because I do want to take a look and see how the points percentage stacks up in the Western Conference. So right now, technically we are the 6th best team in the Western Conference, so not necessarily super high up, but if we sort off points percentage, we are still in 6th place. The teams we got to really watch out for, I guess, the most. The Coyotes have like 2% less wins than us, so that's not terrible. There's a lot of teams over 50%, but we're on 57.9. So the teams we got to watch out for the most, Dallas, Colorado, St. Louis, and Phoenix, I guess. But as of right now, at least we're still in the playoff spot. So maybe some things we need to address, but not necessarily. Who's leading the entire league? Pittsburgh, again, has already clinched a playoff spot. God damn, Pittsburgh's insane in this franchise mode, especially regular season-wise. Washington is also killing it this season. Tampa's probably close to clinching the playoff spot. Atlanta's killing it this year. Damn. All right. This is an interesting season for sure. Where are we in terms of the entire league? We're below the Islanders, which is funny. 12th. All right. So there's that. Let's take a look at some stats then. Marcoux jumped up to an 88. He's definitely on statistical growth, but Marcoux has become the most insane player on this team right now, and I don't really know what the reason is, but he is absolutely loving this time in Edmonton, and he's only making $940K as an 88 overall. And this is already almost his career high in points. His plus-minus is fantastic. He's got a lot of power play points. 3 short-handed points. Face-off percentage is above 50. In general, he's doing a lot of good stuff. He does have more giveaways than takeaways, but really liking the way Marcoux is playing this year. He's definitely showing me he's a good player for us in that top 6. Aside from that, Nathan McKinnon on 48 points. He's been solid still this season, but -9. That might be since Cameron's injury. I'm not too sure. Nelson on 37 points plus 15. Not too bad for him. Lowry's on 31 points. Lowry still could be a Rookie of the Year candidate, which is kind of surprising because I wasn't expecting it. But he's been good. 18 goals this season, despite the 2.5-star shooting category. We also have Jenner on 23. Cameron's on 23, of course, as well. So Cameron's technically our lowest scoring center, but he has also missed like the last 30 games almost. So, and he's still out for another month. So yeah, it's definitely a tough time for Cameron, but he'll be back for the playoffs, which is good. From a left wing perspective, Latti on 41 points has been pretty damn good this year as well, plus 25. Love to see that. Alto's having a good rookie season too, so Alto and Lowry both might be up there for the Calder this season. Alto's on 38 points, and he's definitely a pure playmaker, which I kind of like because we could put him next to a good goal scorer and he could do really well. Maybe that's why Lowry's scoring, but 30 assists from Alto is awesome. Holden on 28 points has been pretty solid this year as well. Obergauer's not been bad since being put in the lineup. 9 points, 30 games as a fourth line option, only a -1. I'll take it. Right wing side of things, Toffoli's on 46 points. He's been solid. Fada's on 40. He's still figuring out his game a bit, but definitely not going to score as much goals as last season. Shaw on 17 points and a +11. Shaw's been good. So I really like our offense for the most part, I think, even though it has dropped off a bit since Cameron's injury. Defensively, Falk on 32 points. We have Metropolitan on 18, Moss on 16, Mackey on 16, Rodriguez and Holinka on 10 points apiece, and then Reitz only played 5 games with 1 point. But all of our defensemen are plus, which is awesome. And then from a goaltending standpoint, both goalies have been very good. Vasi's on a 30-16-3 record. He's got a .911 save percentage despite only the one shutout at 2.58 goals against. And Youngster and McClement, despite the losing record of 4-8-2, has basically just as good as numbers as Vasi. Better save percentage, a little bit worse goals against, but our goaltending has been a very solid thing for us all year round so far. So far, really liking the way this team is simulating this year. Let's take a look at some stats around the league for fun too while we're at it, just because I'm curious on this. Ovechkin's already got over 100 points, and Backstrom's on 95, Crosby's on 94. God damn. Yeah, Pittsburgh and Washington, absolutely insane. And it looks like the Rangers are having a good year too, because Kucherov has 88 points at this point in time. I don't know why Nick Bergforce is up there for Atlanta/Winnipeg, but goddamn. Best defenseman right now for points is currently Chris Letang with 55. Best goalies for wins right now is Allmark in Tampa. So Tampa is still obviously really good. And the best rookie so far this season is going to be Mackey so far in Montreal. So I don't know if Alto is going to win Rookie of the Year, but he definitely could if he has a really good last of the season. He has played 5 less games than Mackey, and he's only technically 6 less points behind. So maybe there's a chance Alto could beat his fellow Finn and Mackey for Rookie of the Year this season. There's a chance, which is pretty exciting. So that is that. Let's take a look at the trading block and stuff briefly. I don't really know if we're going to make any trades next episode, but we might as well take a look just in case there's any interesting options. Obviously, we do have multiple first-round picks this year, though. The Islanders one, obviously, is technically a later pick than our current pick, so we could trade both these firsts, both these thirds if we really want to. But we could also take a look at the draft class if we really want to, just to see what's supposed to go late in this first round, because both teams look like they're probably going to make the playoffs at this rate. Is there any steals that we know about right now? Doesn't look like it. Maybe this guy, Kevin Holden. He's maybe like a 65. Okay, we don't really know enough about this draft class if we want to keep these picks or not. But let's see what's available on the block, because maybe 2 first-rounders for a really good player would work. But obviously not sure what we need, if there's anything we need. So Anaheim has a lot of solid players on the block. They have Spezza, Pouliot, Nilsson, Smith, and Mitchell. A lot of offensive help. Atlanta still has Toby Enstrom on the block, despite being a very good team this season. So that's kind of surprising. I don't think they're going to move on from him, though. They also have Gryba and Antropov as well. The Bruins have Dennis Weidman, Johnny Boychuk, Ryan Spooner on the block. Some guy named Snobby and Hansel as well. All right. Buffalo has Jeff Tambellini, Jay McClement on the block as well. The Calgary Flames have Jack Hillen on the block, Carl Olsner, who's kind of just become a depth defenseman, Nick Jensen. Boris Safronov, our former defenseman, actually signed in Calgary. I didn't even realize where he signed, but he's currently playing in the AHL for Abbotsford, so kind of sucks that he's not getting a chance at the NHL level. We could bring him back if we really wanted to as another depth defensive option, but don't think that's important. Carolina has Upshall, Sutter, as well as Wilson, Kreider. A lot of good forwards in Carolina. Even this Wismuller dude, too, who's generated. So there is offensive help out there. But the real question is if we actually need it or not. Obviously, we could bring in a good forward if we want to. we could put Kyra down on waivers. And then once Cameron returns, obviously we'll have to make a tougher decision with who's in the lineup. But that could be a play potentially. Columbus has Brule, Vermette on the block, Gustafson, Trevor Smith, I think that is. I almost wanted to say Ty Smith, but I know he's not even in this. So Klein, Gilbert, damn man. Bring back Tom Gilbert for the last year of his career, maybe. No, I'm joking. I wouldn't do that, probably. Detroit has Val Filppula, which is obviously a pretty good player with 1 year left. But is he what we need? Probably not. The Florida Panthers have nothing really on the block. What about Los Angeles? Because Los Angeles has been weird over the last few years. Just prospects, it seems like, at the moment. The Minnesota Wild should have a lot of people on the block. Not really. Oh, wow. Okay, so that low lead that they brought in the offseason, that was in Montreal and St. Louis, I think. Yeah, he has dropped off due to morale as well. So, yeah, looks like he's not doing too hot there. So a lot of the guys that you see here are actually better overalls than it shows. So Minnesota's maybe in a bit of a morale crisis, especially on defense, which means Koshrain is on the block as well. Jokinen, damn, yeah, some good players there. Montreal has prospects, not really a surprise. Nashville, there's another guy named Pellick. This is a generated Pellick. Okay, New Jersey, Andy Green, Mark Giordano. There's definitely good players out there if we want players, but who knows if we actually do or not. The Islanders have our former defenseman in Zhurdev, and even David Savard used to play with us, I guess, technically, too. Franz Nielsen, Jason Demers, and Michael Sauer. How has Zhurdev done the season in New York? 20 points in 69 games, but he's minus 11. And that's despite his team being better than us right now in the standings. So Zhurdev's had an okay year offensively, just like he was with us, but his plus-minus is still a little bit of an iffy issue for him at the moment. So shout out to Zhurdev, but he might get dealt. Hard to say. Rangers have Ryan Ellis as well as Radulov, Grice, Jack Campbell, and Matt D'Agostini. Sens have their goalie Blunden on the block at 25. He hasn't played a lot of games this season, so he's been in the AHL. What the heck? That is a strange one. Why do you have an 83 overall medium league goalie in the AHL? And he's never played an NHL game at this point. That is very strange. There's also Chain on the block. There is Conroy, so some prospects there in Ottawa. Philadelphia, just prospects. Phoenix has Zach Boychuk on the block, who we used to have. They also have David Booth on the block, who's been tearing up the Australian League in real life right now. Jordan Binnington still on the block as a backup option. Mike Smith as a starter. And some guy named Gamache. Pittsburgh, just prospects because they've been good. San Jose still has Vlasic on the block as a defenseman. St. Louis, nothing really. Tampa, nothing really. Toronto, nothing really. Damn, a lot of teams have prospects only. Vancouver has Matt Fratton, Adam McQuaid, Mark Pysyk on the block, so just depth options. And Washington has nothing. So I don't know if there's anything I would really trade for, because I don't think we have a super big weakness on this team. Like, if we go back to edit lines here and just go through each line, I don't think there's a line that's really minus or anything on this team. This top line may be a bit of an issue, but I think it's always been since Cameron's injury that Fada and McKinnon have struggled in terms of defensive play. So I think once Cameron returns, they'll be fine. Second line's been fantastic, especially defensively. Third line maybe has been out there for a little bit more goals, but they're still good. Fourth line has been pretty solid as well. So I think from a defensive standpoint, I wouldn't really change anything. From an offensive standpoint, I don't think there's really much to change either. I think once basically Cameron comes back from injury, that's basically like almost like a deadline upgrade in its own. Because obviously Markou's been good this season, McKinnon's been good, but we can move McKinnon back over to the right wing and stuff once Cameron's back. So I think there's not really much I would do. Also, there is guys in the AHL that could get a chance in the playoffs if we really want players to come up. Guys like Bemstrom and McGinn. And then from a defensive standpoint, Lyon's there. There's also Jackman. There's also Ma. There's also kind of Cody Ceci too. So there's not really a need, I don't think, to make any trades potentially. But obviously we could. Lyon's been pretty solid this year in the AHL. 25 points if you were wondering. Jackman's on 12. And then also Kelvin Maw, I should say, is on 14 points. Yeah, there's also Lightning technically too as a defensive prospect. There's some decent players in the minors. And then how's the goalies doing? Dorset's on a 915 and Samson's on a 926. Yeah, the HL's looking really good this year, so we probably want to keep it mostly the same for the entire season. But yeah, they're getting good depth scoring there too. Like there's literally like fourth line kind of guys like this guy with 18 goals. So yeah, the HL team's absolutely cruising right now. And then our NHL team's doing decent enough too. So I don't think there's any need to make moves. But obviously, if you guys see anything that we should do, we could obviously do it. So with that said, that's going to do it, guys, for this episode of Edmonton Oilers Throwback 2010 Franchise Mode. So in next episode, we will take it to the 2019 trade deadline. We'll see what we end up snagging up if we do snag up anything. Obviously, we could just bring in some depth options or something like that. Or, like I said, we could bring in somebody that will basically hold us over for a month until Cameron's back if we want to, because we probably will have the cap space. So we could make moves, but at the same time, we could always just stay pat and kind of see what this team's able to do. And I think this year could be a good run for this team if we continue to play like the way we've been playing. So think down below, and I'll see you guys next time.